All right. Welcome to the fifth of 6 sessions of the Great Lakes Traditional Ecological Knowledge Speaker Series. Today's session is titled Restoring Culture and Seed Knowledge Through Native Plant Restoration. We would like to begin with inviting participants to share in the chat the Indigenous land or territory that you are participating from today. If you aren't sure, please see a link that Albany just posted in the chat. And I'll start off with introducing myself. Buju Anin, Anishinaabe Kwe, Naganiko Kwe, Zikwan Kwe, Ijinakaz, Nikikindo Dem, Wikwedong, and Dunjaba. My name is Jessica Koski. I am Anishinaabe from the Keweenaw Indian community. I am participating today from the Dakota homelands in Minnesota, where I currently serve as a regional biologist and program manager for the Bureau of Indian Affairs Midwest region. I am also an incoming doctoral student at the University of British Columbia. In my current role with the BIA, I also serve as the U.S. co-lead for the Great Lakes Water Quality Agreement Annex 10 Science Traditional Ecological Knowledge Task Team. The Great Lakes TEK Speaker Series is presented by Annex 10 of the Great Lakes Water Quality Agreement in partnership with the University of Minnesota Twin Cities Department of American Indian Studies. The series is co-organized by myself, Andrew Preston, who serves as the Canadian co-lead for the TEK task team, and also U.S. caucus member of the task team, Jessica Dolan. She's also supporting the Q&A behind the scenes for today's session. Jessica is an ethnobotanist on contract with the St. Regis Mohawk tribe in Akwesasne, and she also serves as a member of the Conservation Through Reconciliation team based at the University of Guelph in Ontario. The Great Lakes TEK Speaker Series seeks to connect and share lessons across Indigenous communities and increase awareness of the value of Indigenous knowledge and how to appropriately bridge knowledge systems. Almost 800 people have been registered for the series so far, including participants from tribal, First Nation, and Métis communities, as well as numerous federal agency participants from both the US and Canadian governments, many state and provincial agencies, as well as academic and K through 12 attendees, and non-governmental and other participants. So at this time, I will pass it to my co-lead partner, Andrew, and he'll introduce himself and provide an overview and logistics for today.
Thanks, Jessica. Hello, welcome everyone to the series and to the session today. My name is Andrew Preston. As Jessica said, I'm a senior policy analyst with the Environment and Climate Change Canada, and as Jessica mentioned, a co-lead of the Great Lakes Water Quality Annex 10 Science Annex TEK Task Team. It's quite a mouthful. I'm speaking to you today from Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee territory, land covered by the Dish with One Spoon territory, which teaches us to live in peace and share the wealth of this area so no one goes without. This land is also covered by Treaty 13, an agreement between the Crown and the Mississaugas of the Credit, signed over 2 centuries ago, making it possible for settlers to come and live here. This treaty also established the responsibilities that newcomers have to the Mississaugas of the Credit and to the land and to the waters to be good treaty partners and support all people's efforts to live a good life. Before getting started with today's program, I just want to go over some housekeeping items. First, in terms of how the session will unfold today, there'll be 3 presentations, after which we'll move into the question and answer portion of the program, and that will last about 25 minutes or so. Everyone has been placed on mute for the session, so to pose your questions, we would like you to use Zoom's Q&A function. You should see the button for that at the bottom of your screen. We're going to be collecting questions as they're posed throughout today's presentations, and we'll return to them during the Q&A portion. So please go ahead and submit them as you think of them during the presentations. If you would like to share other information with a larger group, please use the chat function. And if you are posting to the larger group, take care to ensure that you address your note to all participants so that it is delivered appropriately. Finally, I'd like to introduce the moderator for today's session, Michael Dockery. Mike is a member of the Citizen Potawatomi Nation with traditional territories around southern Lake Michigan. He's an assistant professor for tribal natural resource management in the Forest Resources Department at the University of Minnesota, as well as an affiliate faculty member in the American Indian Studies Department there. Mike has been a terrific moderator for us, can't thank him enough, and we are very fortunate to have him with us again today. So with that, Mike, over to you.
Bonjour, everybody. Thank you for having me. It's a real honor to introduce our panelists today and to help try to moderate questions. So just reiterating, please put your questions in the Q&A box. And if you're typing in the chat, there's a little blue button that says either panelists and attendees or just panelists. If you choose the one that says panelists and attendees, your comments will be viewable by everybody. So I will start by introducing Sateoko Bucktooth. She's the founder and medicine maker of Snipe Clan Botanicals. After completing a 4-year apprenticeship through the Akwesasne Cultural Restoration Program in the area of traditional medicine and healing, she felt the need to continue her work with plant medicines, and so Snipe Clan Botanicals was created, a business of bringing people and plants back together. Sateokwa also works as a contractor with the St. Regis Mohawks Environment Division as a traditional ecological knowledge consultant. Our next panelist will be Sherilyn Johnston. Sherilyn Johnston is the environment coordinator for the Aamjiwnaang First Nation, where she has served as the community and worked directly with the chief and council for the last 11 years. Sherilyn is a member of the Chippewas of Thames First Nation. She also previously worked with the Ministry of the Environment in technical support, abatement, and enforcement. She believes consultation and community engagement are positive for Indigenous communities as they move towards reconciliation. The Aamjiwnaang First Nation has over 52 large industrial neighbors that impact their day-to-day lives and their surrounding environment. This has not stopped them from asserting their rights and ensuring the environment is top priority. The community engages with governments and industry and is involved in a number of large projects, from monitoring air pollution from the chemical plants surrounding the community to wildlife habitat restoration to consultation regarding new proposed developments. And our third speaker is Lee Sprague. Lee is a member of the oh geez, why is my tongue getting tied here? Matchabenashawish Band of Potawatomi, the Gun Lake tribe, former Ogama chief of the Little River Band of Ottawa Indians, and a member of the Ajijak and Dodam, the Crane clan. Lee has worked on Monoman, wild rice, restoration efforts in the Kalamazoo River watershed, site of the Enbridge tar sands oil spill of 2010, and the St. Joseph River watershed with the Nottawasepi Huron Band of Potawatomi and Gun Lake tribe under the Great Lakes Restoration Initiative, GLRI. Lee has a degree in international indigenous law from San Francisco State University and has a long history of seeking solutions to issues of environmental justice and sovereignty related to land, water, and air through collaborations with tribal nations, non-governmental organizations, and others in his work, including with the San Francisco Urban Institute, the National Sierra Club, and the International Indian Treaty Council. And with that, thank you all for coming here to present. I will turn it over to Sateokwa.
Seko zewakweko, Sateoko yungat, Swaget Nesio, Akwesasne no Titalo, Tanot Genoa Bakatehialo, Wagiliwayane, Snipe Clan Botanicals, Oni Dokala, Niosalage, Danone Ona, Dokatuhunjoni, Ankatasoa ne Nohodaka, Angwanatuhase. So hello everybody, my name is Sateokwa. I'm Snipe Clan from Akwesasne. This is where I was born and raised. I've had my business now for a few years, and I got started at the Akwesasne Cultural Restoration Program. So let me just share my screen quickly, and I can get us started on the presentation. So when I was asked to do this presentation on restoring culture and seed knowledge through native plant restoration, when I started working on the presentation, I found myself veering more towards symbolic seed knowledge, even though a lot of actual seeds have gotten me to this point. So I wanted to start with talking about the Akwesasne Cultural Restoration Program, or ACR. It was it all began because of some Superfund sites that were just off the Akwesasne territory. Were downwind and downriver from a GM and Reynolds Metals plant. And it caused a lot of contamination to the land, to the waters, to the animals, to the fish, and to the people. And so because of that, people stopped hunting, they stopped trapping, they stopped fishing because the fish were so contaminated we couldn't eat them anymore. We stopped gathering our traditional medicines, we stopped gardening because there was contaminants in the soil. So because of this, we lost a lot of knowledge that was in those areas. And so they created the cultural restoration program from settlement monies that they received from GM and Reynolds Metals, which turned into Alcoa, and now it's Arconic, and now I think it's named something else. I can't keep up with that. So as a result, they created this 4-year apprenticeship program with these 4 categories that you see here before you. There were to be 2 masters and 4 apprentices for each category. So I was an apprentice in the traditional medicine and healing category. And we also incorporated a lot of Ganyatgeha, the Mohawk language, into every single day. It was the hope that we would come out of this apprenticeship program to be masters in these 4 categories in addition to fluent language speakers. So it was a 8 to 4 job, went in Monday to Friday, started at 8 o'clock. We would start with the Yohantigalihwadekwa every day, which is the words that come before all else. And we would end with the Yohantigalihwadekwa every day. From 8 o'clock until noon, we would do Mohawk language. And let me tell you, that first week was my brain, like I had a headache from all of the language that they're trying to cram in. And when I was younger, I went to the Akwesasne Freedom School. So I had a base of language already. And then when I went into high school, a lot of the students that were at the Freedom School, when we graduated from Freedom School, we went to public school together. And thankfully at Salmon River, they created language classes for us. So as opposed to, having to start with Mohawk level 1, they created a class where, it was like level 3. And then as we graduated to, like 10th grade, 11th grade, and then they would make Mohawk 4, Mohawk 5, Mohawk Advanced. So the language class went right with us. So I was really thankful for that. And despite already having a decent handle on the basic Ganyatgeha language, that first week at ACR, my head was just pounding. It was such a complex language and it's very difficult to learn. So I'm very fortunate and thankful that they had that program where I got paid to learn my language, to learn my culture. So as I mentioned, we had the horticulture and traditional foods, which we called the gardeners, hunting and trapping, fishing and water use. And I think the first couple weeks, we kind of did some cross training so that we would know what the hunters and trappers were up to, because some of the animals we use for medicine, or some foods are medicine. Some of the fish and the water is also used medicinally, and then vice versa for a lot of the foods. A lot of garden foods are also medicines, or so we just kind of had to get an overview of what everybody was doing, and that was actually a lot of fun. Another thing that they really wanted to teach us was to teach, because how are we going to learn all this knowledge and then not be able to share it with the community? So every year we would have workshops throughout the year. Our final exam would be a big presentation for the community. And they started us off slow. It was a little bit gradual. So the first year, our masters taught, for the most part, that first big workshop for the community. The second year, they were there to assist us, but they encouraged the apprentices to do more teaching. The third year, we had one other apprentice that we would teach with. And then the fourth year, we were all on our own. And even though we had been doing presentations for so long, when it came time for my fourth and final exam, I was like, okay, I got this, like I can do this. It was, we had it at the Ganadagung Recreation Center. So it was this big, gigantic room full of people, pre-COVID days when you could do that, right? So everybody was facing one direction while one of the other apprentices was wrapping up their presentation. And I was like setting up behind them, getting ready and everything. The idea was, instead of having people move to a different location, I would just be set up on the other side of the room. So they just had to turn around. Well, when everybody turned around and I saw all of those eyes on me, I just kind of froze. I probably would have done the same thing today, but I can't see everybody who's logged on. So, but when you're in those situations, you just gotta push through. So, I did my tea testing and tea blending presentation. I used some traditional medicines, and it was great. I really enjoyed it. And in addition to those final exams, that were public, we would also have smaller ones too, where our teachers would, create a test for us at the end of the year. And that was hosted out at Thompson Island. So we were away from the classroom and we were on the island and able to sit by the river to study before our tests. So that was really nice. We would also host annual elders dinners to show our appreciation, because the only way we were able to obtain that knowledge was from our elders. So it was just our way of showing appreciation to the knowledge that they hold and that they were willing to share for us. And this was the first time that I have ever seen a community meal done totally traditional. Typically when people say traditional meal, they think, well, around here, we think, the turkey and gravy and stuffing, mashed potatoes and hash. But this traditional meal was everything that the gardeners grew in their garden. So a lot of white corn. They would do cornbread, corn soup. With the squash, they did squash soups. The hunters would bring in venison, muskrat and beaver. The fishermen would catch us some sturgeon and walleye and perch. And for the medicines, we would provide the teas. And I think we did wild leek soup a couple times. So we tried to really focus on our actual traditional foods and step away from things like the fried bread, although that almost started a fried bread riot when we said, let's do cornbread instead of fried bread. And then, everything got a little crazy. So we ended up doing a little bit of fried bread. You got to appease the masses sometime. So for the medicines, as I mentioned, on a daily basis, we would start with our language, and that would kind of give us a basis to start from if we wanted to go out into like say we wanted to go up into the mountains to pick our medicine, then the language teachers would provide us some vocabulary and words that we could use while we were picking. We also focused a lot on our traditional medicine names. So instead of saying, stinging nettle, we'd have to refer to Yagohesa lasta, or raspberry leaves, Kaneguantalano. So we were actually trying to utilize these words, and we followed some of the picking protocols. You don't pick the first one you see, always pick with a good mind. You have to know where these plants are typically found and in safe locations, because as I mentioned, we're so close to so many Superfund sites that you really have to be cognizant of the medicine you're picking, because the whole point is to make your people feel healthy and not make them sick. So that was a really big thing we had to keep in mind. We had to learn how to prepare it and administer it. And then we even learned about the body systems, the physiology and anatomy, and keeping in mind how certain plant medicines might interact with pharmaceutical medications, as so many of our people are on because of current poor states of health. The second part to my category was healing. So we did traditional healing methods. We focused on cycle of ceremonies, our history, whether it be, treaties, like being aware of the Grass River. We have treaty rights to that area, specifically the Giahundaguata area, which means it's where we would go to gather. So even though it's so contaminated and we don't gather there anymore, we still need to be aware that we do have rights to that area and to not forget. We covered different stories. There's a lot of stories of how we came to find the sap water and get maple syrup, or how we found the goldenrod to be so beautiful. In different plant medicines, there's, you know, plant stories, place stories. We also did medicine wheel teachings. We have down at Holistic Health in Guanaguatzilio, over on the northern side of Akwesasne, is the clinic, and they have a department that focuses on healing and counseling, and not so much, it's more the traditional holistic form of counseling. You can see on the page below that they focused on the 4 areas to build them up so that there's balance between or within yourself. We did sweat lodge teachings, traditional government. So we learned about how we came to have our form of government, their leadership titles and their roles and responsibilities. There's a lot of healing that comes from knowing who you are and where you came from. So even though it seemed like a big history lesson, it was also a form of healing, and it gives you confidence too, and to, you know, do things like this, you know, talk, it gives you confidence. Jessica Jock, who I work with now at Environment Division, it's who created my contract as the TEK consultant. She had the foresight to work with our program and to create this ethnobotany course for us. So you can see we're in the classroom. I don't remember what we were doing there. And then I do remember field work though. That was a lot of fun. We went to one of the plant reserves over just on the other side of the border in Dundee. And we worked with a botanist, Ann Johnson, and she showed us how to identify right down to examining up close and personal with the plants, their different identification characteristics, and then their Latin names, which was more difficult than learning the Mohawk names, at least for me. So that was a really great experience. And then getting towards the end of the 4 years, we started asking questions like, okay, reality setting in, our 4 years is almost up. What am I going to do after this? And so we asked, start asking our supervisors and program manager, what's next? What do we do next? And they're like, well, you're going to go off into the world. And out of that wasn't enough for us. So then they were like, okay, let's do an internship. So everybody had an internship in different places, the schools, Boys and Girls Club, the Freedom School. I did 6 weeks at Salmon River with Gajit Juni Fox, who teaches Native studies, Native film, and I know she helps with a language class as well. So I interned with her to get a feel for the classroom and working with the students and the youth. And then the second half of that 12 weeks, I worked with the Grass River Indian Meadows Survey. And here's Ann Johnson again. She was an amazing person to work with. She's just like a walking encyclopedia. I always have these questions like, oh, I wonder what that plant is, and you always have to go through the whole long process of looking it up and sifting through what it is. And she would just know it right off the top of her head. So anytime I had a question, she was really quick to answer. And so it was a great opportunity to get some experience on how to do field surveys and to learn more about the Grass River and the Indian Meadows territory, which my ancestors used to gather there all the time, pre-contamination times. So then we graduated. That's the Hunter and Trapper group. Not all the groups graduated with all of their apprentices and masters in tow. I was fortunate enough where in the medicine and healing group, we did manage to end with 2 masters and 4 apprentices. And you can't see, but on my diploma there, it was recognized by the Mohawk Nation Council of Chiefs, which is our traditional government, the St. Regis Mohawk tribes, and Mohawk Council of Akwesasne Chiefs. So they all recognize this ACR program as being, important enough where they'll put their signature on it. So as I mentioned before, there wasn't really anything set up for after we graduated from the program. And I had already graduated from Syracuse University. I already had done my 4-year schooling. I knew that academics weren't for me while I was able to graduate, and I was fortunate to go through the Haudenosaunee Promise and have a full tuition. I just knew, going to that kind of school wasn't for me. And I also knew that I didn't want to go back to any of my other jobs. I was a business development coordinator. I was an administrative assistant. I was in promotions, and none of that, I didn't want to go back to it, especially after learning medicine and healing for 4 years and language for 4 years. I didn't want to go back to it. So I started my own business. And thankfully, because we had already been in the community and working with programs, we already had a reputation for, giving good presentations, hands-on presentations about cultural activities. And so I already had my foot in the door for working with Salmon River. I started doing more classes with Boys and Girls Club, youth summer programs, other programs in Akwesasne, even for staff appreciation, for adults. And on the top picture here, I did a class for the senior center. So those are our seniors. We did fire cider. And then on the bottom, I also went to Onondaga, which is just south of Syracuse. And I did a class there as well. I even went out to the Ithaca YMCA and did a little medicine walk with their kids out there too. And it was kind of just to raise awareness within Ithaca that they are on traditional Cayuga territory, which is a part of the Haudenosaunee Confederacy. So they wanted to learn more about where they were. So that was really nice. And it was actually a very amazing group of kids who asked some really great questions. I still think about that group all the time. I also sell products like some teas and salves. I got into some fun stuff like hair serum and face serum. And then I also was able to score a contract with the St. Regis Mohawk Tribes Environment Division as well. So working as their TEK consultant. So what does that mean? Who knows? It's also new. We've been working on some delisting criteria for their BUIs. So we would have a bi-weekly tech talk with representatives from the community, elders, and Mohawk Council of Akwesasne's environment, and then SRMT environment, just to try to narrow down what we felt was important and should be incorporated onto this list, doing presentations such as this. And I'm also working with the Akwesasne Native Plants Nursery. And they've been working on seed saving and not so much garden variety, but wild and shoreline restoration type seed plants. So that's been great. We're on hiatus for a little while due to COVID, but we just started back last week. And unfortunately, I wasn't able to make that meeting because the series is still going on, but I'm hoping after this I can get back with the nursery group. I also help with some of the planting ceremonies. I brought the seeds to the Akwesasne Freedom School to the students to sing the seed songs to before they use them for the replanting and restoring of the shoreline. And then I try to talk about why I'm bringing these kids these seeds too, so that they're aware that what's going on up on the Grass River and why it's important that they be involved. We also do tobacco burnings. I'll reach out to other apprentices like the Gajit Jungge Cook and his father Haget Cook. They're really great at being available to help out with these things. And then it also keeps awareness within the community as well. After we did the ethnobotany course with my medicines group, we created a list of species that we felt was culturally relevant. The Arconic team members selected the first list of seeds that they wanted to have replanted along the Grass River. And it was this like tiny little list. It had a few things on there. And we kind of took a look at it and we're like, well, you know, what about this and what about that? And so we created this great big long list that we paired up with the list we got from the field survey where I worked with the botanist, Ann Johnson, and Jay Wilkins was our boatman. And so we combined these two lists to, you know, give them this like one great big list, with which thankfully they accepted. And then they even accepted our input on, you know, where they're sourcing their seeds from. Are they from a place, you know, an environment that will be similar to ours? We get really cold winters up here. Will they be able to last? So we had a lot of input for that, which was great that it was accepted as well. We did some wild rice replanting because in our 2017 field survey, we did find a patch of wild rice. And so looking forward to the future, we wanted to be able to plant some there, and maybe one day we will be able to eat out of that river again, and it will be there for us to use. I helped with some tobacco burnings, and it was very limited because of the pandemic. So having the community involvement wasn't feasible last year. So we're hoping this year we can have a little bit more. And if not, you know, we'll still try to incorporate and include the community in all of these activities for the remediation work along the Grass River. And in terms of seed saving, I kept thinking about, you know, planting seeds of knowledge. You know, I was given these seeds from working with the ACR program, and then also growing up, going to the Freedom School and going to Longhouse and learning from my elders, and just sitting and listening to all their stories. And I felt like those were the seeds that I want to see replanted for our future 7 generations, so that they have this knowledge, that their, you know, that their interest is piqued, that they're reconnecting to the environment, they're getting off their phones, ironically off Zoom maybe someday, and getting back on the rivers and seeing how the fish are filleted and how the medicines are picked and prepared. And I'm hoping that by continuing to teach and host workshops, that's the way that I'll plant these seeds. And I feel like ultimately it's going to promote healing, not in just being healthier bodies because we're drinking our medicinal teas, but our mental capacity is full of greatness because we're educated on our history and our people and our language, where our physical health is great because we're out planting and gathering, and that takes great physical stamina to be able to, you know, climb those mountains to get that plant, or get in the garden and weed and plant. Our emotional health is great because we're connected and grounded to nature, and our spiritual health is great because we're getting back to what we're intended to do, and that is to give gratitude for everything that has been provided to us in life. And I think I blew right through that presentation, so I just want to say Nyawa Koa. I hope I covered everything that I wanted to, and if you have any questions, we'll be on for after the next 2 presentations. So, Nyawa.
Miigwech Sateoko, that was great. What a wonderful presentation. If anyone has any questions, you can start typing in the Q&A box just by clicking the bottom of your Zoom screen. In the meantime, I would like to welcome Sherilyn. Sherilyn, you might need to unmute your microphone if you're talking right now.
Yeah, okay, there I am. Thank you. I had to find my buttons after I started sharing my screen. Can everybody hear me, and can you see the present, what I'm sharing on my screen?
Yes, you sound great, and we can see the Google map there.
Great, thank you. So my name is Sherilyn Johnston. I'm the Environment Coordinator for Aamjiwnaang First Nation. And I just wanted to say there's a lot of similarities between Seth Cohen's presentation and the Akwesasne First Nation with the Aamjiwnaang. And I wanted to share this map first right off the bat to kind of give an idea of where we're located. So the Aamjiwnaang First Nation is referred to as Sarnia Indian Reserve number 45, which you can see on the map here, and located on our boundaries. And I refer to it as fence line because it is fence line. There's the Sarnia Suncor refinery, and here's the Aamjiwnaang fence line with respect to you know, the Aamjiwnaang territory and the First Nation. And then over here we have Shell all along the border of on LaSalle. And then we are also bordered by the St. Clair River and Michigan, Marysville, Michigan, and Port Huron are on the other side of us. And so when we look at the First Nation, you can see the amount of forest cover and greenery that we have compared to the other parts of where we're located. And so I just wanted to kind of bring that up as, you know, the information to kind of give you context of, you know, where we're coming from when we talk about, you know, being in an area of concern, but also experiencing some of the impacts from environmental contamination and pollution. And so very similar to what Akwesasne experiences and you know, works with. So now I'm going to leave this and then start sharing the PowerPoint. So again, I wanted to introduce you to our native plant nursery here in Aamjiwnaang. So Majigan Gamig is a place where plants start to grow. And you can see in our, I guess, emblem or our kind of...
Sherilyn, I don't think you're sharing screen right now. I think you might need to press the share screen button.
Okay. Darn. Here we go. Is that working?
I don't see it. So when you click the green share screen button at the bottom of the Zoom, I guess, window, you should be able to pick the PowerPoint that you want to show. And maybe, yeah.
Is that working now?
I don't see it yet. Any thoughts? Maybe Christina, I'm not sure.
Yeah, it worked before.
Yeah, it was working before. Great.
Okay, let's do it again. Share screen. How's that?
Here it comes. There. That's
Okay.
great.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Okay, so
Excellent.
back in business. So yeah, I just wanted to indicate that you know, our emblem was also produced from the community in the way that we're indicating the sharing of the knowledge from the elder who's holding the plant to you know, our youth's hand over top, who's gaining that knowledge. So when we're talking about our native plant nursery, we're talking about education and sharing in you know, the knowledge and the traditional ecological knowledge and transfer. And again, we do a lot of workshops, but also a lot of community-based learning with education and other, I would say, schools that are in the Lambton County Board. So I'm just going to give a little background on it. We opened in 2015, so we've been in business about 6 years, and it was with a partnership with Aamjiwnaang First Nation and Shell. Shell had to do some work along the Telford Creek, and we were, you know, involved in that process due to the requirement for consultation. And when we went to the Telford and looked at the area that they were proposing to do the work, we indicated that there was a lot of significant plants there that we were concerned about. And so we did a rescue. And that rescue, we brought the plants over to the community and, you know, were able to keep them and then replant them when that restoration work was going on. So as a result of that, Shell thought it was a good idea, and we were able to come to an agreement on a native plant nursery and a greenhouse. And we really focus on growing locally and genetically sourced native plants. And a lot of it comes from rescue work as a result of development in our area. And as I was able to show you on the map, there's a lot of development in our area. And, you know, we get a lot of requests daily from different proponents that are, you know, wanting to come into the area to do business because of the industry that's already here and the amount of, you know, business that goes on in Sarnia. So again, it's a hands-on educational native plant nursery. We deal with ecological restoration, traditional and ecological stewardship education, sustainable low-impact development, plant rescues, and some plant sales. And we also have a partnership with a local organization called Return the Landscape. And it's a local not-for-profit specializing in native plant landscaping. And so with that, we try to promote the Big Five habitats and their associated plants. And so especially in Lambton County, we have coastal dunes, we have oak savanna, tallgrass prairie, wetlands. And so those types of habitats are very important to our area. And here's just a picture to kind of look at, you know, the size. It's not that big. It's 54 by 34, but we can fit a lot of plants in here. And, you know, we work hard at making sure that, you know, it's well maintained, but that we have a good supply in case, you know, we need to fill an order. So coastal dunes, I just wanted to show some of the, you know, restoration type of work that we've been doing, you know, with different partners. We're trying to educate homeowners and, you know, learnings about trying to teach them that, you know, some of the grasses that grow naturally help restore and keep their beaches so that they're not losing them to erosion. And we've also had a lot of problems with rising water levels and water runoff. So this helps do that protection. So here's a picture of a restored beach property. And it's helping prevent some of the sand from blowing away and protecting the patio. Down below is a retired gravel pit restoration. And, you know, we planted beach grass to promote the surrounding area. And so that was done with a conservation authority. And wetlands and rain gardens. And this is, you know, an area that we find is overlooked and underutilized in natural and areas around homes. And, you know, you can look at your downspouts and, you know, put in a really nice rain garden. And this rain garden can offer high moisture environments to many native plant species, and they can thrive there. And, you know, here's some pictures of what we've put into different areas, like the Dennis blazing star, the cardinal flower, the bee balm. And rain gardens really offer many benefits to improving water retention, reducing water usage, and improving groundwater recharge. And it also filters and slows down storm drains, so you don't have as much impact to your receiving water. And you know, it really helps with some of the sedimentation problems that we have as well. And can offer pollinators and birds, you know, habitat for water, and also, you know, they really love these different types of plants. Oak savanna and tall grass prairie and pollinator gardens. And we've been really successful in, you know, putting in a lot of these different types of plants on newer homes. You know, we're really trying to say, like, why would you plant grass when you can have a habitat that is closely resembling, you know, an open prairie or oak savanna that can, you know, help with the pollinators. And, you know, you can have, you know, naturalized areas. And, you know, we have a lot of these plants in stock, and we'll do plant sales and actually do landscape design, natural landscape design. The Carolinian Forest and Woodland Gardens. So I think, you know, if you refer to Southern Ontario, you know, Carolinian Canada has indicated that 1% of Canada is, you know, houses 25% of our population. And the forests and habitats here are more diverse and threatened than anywhere else in Canada. And these species and the Carolinian zone have ties and identity to First Nations, because there's a lot of medicinal plants, and we are medicinal people. And the forests and plants that we have are a lot of our, what we consider our medicines. So when we look at some of the rescued plants that we have here in the picture, you know, we try to go in and rescue as much as we can, because they are very difficult to grow. And, you know, we don't support losing forests to development, but we really do, you know, do encourage plant rescue as much as we can. And you can see the potted bloodroot that's in here, some of the ferns, Solomon seal, the mayapple, all significant plants to the Anishinaabe. And when I talk about education and I talk about working with our community and our youth, we do a lot of work with the daycare, planting of turtle gardens, bringing the kindergarten class. This year we have a Three Sisters garden that we're working on for the education with the kindergartens. And it's been something that's been very positive in the community, and you know, has taken off. And we're really, you know, proud of being able to transfer that knowledge to the younger generation. Seed cleaning. This is something that it takes a lot of work. It's you know, a job that can be time consuming, but we go out, we have the different workshops for the community, and we go out and collect and gather seeds and then clean them and then use those seeds for propagation in the greenhouse. And it's been something that is very communal. A lot of people enjoy it, and you know, like the contribution that the greenhouse is providing in sustainability and improving the landscape. So when I talk about the greenhouse and how it's connected to the Aamjiwnaang, this goes into the ethnobotany, which, you know, Sek Cohen was talking about, and it's a study of traditional knowledge and customs of a people concerning plants and their medicinal, religious, and other uses. And for the Aamjiwnaang, it is embedded in traditional stories. So when we talk about how cedar came into the world and bearberry, it's right in our stories about how the Anishinaabe were wandering around and lost, and the birds and the animals, or the birds identified their plight and they mentioned it to Creator, and the Creator had instructions to help them. So in this story, it goes through about how the eagle tries, how the hawk tries, how the rabbit tries to help the, and listen to the woodpecker to tell about the Anishinaabe plight. And then it goes down to all of the, you know, the owl and the mice and the beaver and the kingfisher, and how they all got together to talk about how they had concerns with the Anishinaabe, and they wanted to follow Creator's instructions to help the Anishinaabe. And it comes about that, you know, they try to use a popular tree to do some digging, but they realized that popular was too brittle and broke. So they tried the oak, but it was too heavy. So they prayed to Creator, and you know, he described that they wanted a light, tough tree, and that describes cedar. And so Gitche Manitou granted the request to help the Anishinaabe, and the cedar was that helping tree. And so when we talk about cedar as an important part of our ceremonies, of our stories, it's because it's right in our traditional stories of how we came to be. And the same thing with the bearberry. And I always kind of bring this up in different presentations because, you know, even the littlest berry is important to First Nations and to First Nations culture. And sometimes I think, you know, we look at plants and we look at different things and we take them for granted. And everything has a role to play in our connection with who we are. And, you know, I always look at, I live in a subdivision, and, you know, recently I had a lot of cedars at the back of my property, but they weren't on my property, they were on my neighbor's property. And they took those whole cedars down, like every single one of them. And when I talked to them and I asked them why, it was because they thought that the cedars were housing mosquitoes. So they didn't see the importance of cedar and you know, the use of cedar in habitats, protecting the birds, you know, stopping the wind, different things like that. So when we work with other organizations like Return the Landscape, trying to go into cities to help with you know, reestablishing native plants and, you know, identifying the need for that. Those are the kinds of educations that we need to present to, you know, people that live in areas that subdivisions that look at the grass, that water the grass, but maybe can implement or put in a native plant here or there, or even a rain garden to help with some of the the restoration. So when we look at our language as well, you can see that common plant parts and nouns are right in our language. So when we talk about, our bark and fibrous roots, flower, tree, it's all available in how we converse with one another in our native language. And we have words for all of the different parts of the plant. There are some words that or some, nouns and different things that we don't have words for, but when it comes to plants, we're very descriptive, and it's all part of our language. And again, for the different types of plant groupings as well. So, when it comes to the types of plants that you're not supposed to eat, referred to as Manitou, because, they can be harmful. Mashkiki, when we talk about our medicines, the Shingwak, when we talk about pine trees. And so it is based, all of our plants are based in our language. And again, when we talk about the prefixes that go along with the Anishinaabe Moan, when we talk about leaves and roots and flowers, we have those descriptive types of words that go with it. So, stiff-stemmed with berries, long grassy stem. So it's all connected in culture and all connected in, who we are as, medicinal people. Spirituality, that speaks again to how we use our medicines to connect with Creator and to, give thanks. And we have our 4 sacred medicines. We have tobacco, sweetgrass, sage, and cedar. And these are we use them every day in our ceremonies, in the way that we give thanks when we do pick and plant with our native plant nursery. We do grow some of the sage and the sweetgrass and the cedar in our native plant nursery. And a lot of times these medicines are available free to the community if they need it. And any time that they, are looking for it, it's available for the community to come and pick some up if they need it. Kinnikinnick, again, this is another type of smudging mixture, and it can be used in as well as sema, and it's a mixture of plants. So the bearberry here again, the red osier dogwood, wintergreen, fleabane, yarrow, pagoda dogwood, and downy arrowwood bark. So all of these are available in our greenhouse, and we do, make sure that we have the medicines that people are needing, and that if they want to use for any ceremonies. And again, to be able to do an honorable harvest, plants play a big part in that, and with respect to prayer. So we have a cedar song. So with this cedar, it tells about, behold the cedar, the holy cedar, come let her breathe you, new life within. We call her saving tree. She saves the people. We say no commiss, we show you respect. And cedar is used in cedar tea, cedar baths, and it's a very important ceremonial plant. And we use it in burials and in sweats. So, you know, when you talk about songs for seeds, we have songs for cedar and, you know, the important plants to the Anishinaabe people. Hunting and fishing medicine. So, you know, the Magi Manitou were said to follow hunters, and sometimes they tried to steal their hunting luck. And so in order to repel those Magi Manitou, there was a smudging that would take place with cow parsnip root or water parsnip seeds. And they were used in that ceremony to make sure that there was a good hunt, and that, you know, the luck for the hunters would, you know, be provided after that smudging and fire was lit to repel those. The other part is, so hunting lures and fishing lures. You know, you would use them to utilize it, you know, like, so water lily was known as the favorite food for moose. So during the rut season, you know, they would dry the root and burn it in favorable spots so that the moose could be lured in. And the same with the surgeon. They would soak a basswood net for luring in sturgeon for fishing and hunting.
Sherilyn, this is Mike. I want to make sure that we have enough time with Lee, and your presentation is amazing, so I'm reluctant to break in, but I just wanted to kind of let you know that we're getting to the end of the time for the formal presentation.
Okay.
If you could wrap it up in a couple minutes here, that would be
sure.
Cool.
I'll go fast over the berries and the women's medicine. So berries also, you know, are used quite a lot in a lot of First Nations culture, and the Anishinaabe as well. So we have, you know, the cranberries and the blueberries, and we also have the berry fasts for our young women. And again, we have the cohosh, and the blue and black cohosh are women's medicine. And you will also find that they are used in traditional regalia artwork. The leaf of the cohosh can be very prominent in a lot of First Nations regalia. Again, there's a lot of different medicines that you wouldn't think. So the hawthorn tree, it's loaded with antioxidants, and it's a good heart medicine. The wild bergamot, again, Sasapuan, it's a respiratory medicine, and it's quite prominent in the Aamjiwnaang area. And they say everything you need is close by. And so the bergamot is something that we use quite often for colds, coughs, sore throats, but also for the respiratory issues that we face in the Aamjiwnaang territory. Virginia mountain mint, again, a wonderful plant for pollinators, but it's also an edible plant that you can use in your cooking. And these are some of the sources that we used for this presentation. Okay, that's it.
Miigwech, Sherilyn, sorry for breaking in on you there. I just wanted to make sure that Lee has enough time. And so we go to the top of the hour. And if Lee, if you could finish with some time for questions, that'd be great. If you end up taking up the whole time, we can have individuals follow up with questions afterwards. So take it away, Lee.
Yeah, I'm going to keep this brief. First of all, I guess my premise is that Monoman does not belong with environment. It belongs with seed sovereignty. It is our most sacred seed. When I go to these conferences with NOAA, University of Michigan, the Botanical Gardens, everybody raises their hand. You get to say one word about Monoman, wild rice. And then they talk about 1 million points of data about wild rice after that. When our environmental departments reach out to our children, the scientists talk about monomen first. Anyways, so the presentations beforehand, I've learned so much. I know that monomen belongs with the seed savers. It's sacred knowledge. It doesn't belong to scientists. So thank you. So with that, if somebody can start my presentation. I'm not sure how this works. Oh, good. Namush Niska Nishnabik, my Potawatomi goose dog. She's a beautiful animal. And geese are a major problem. They've increased 30 times since 1970. They like to eat that plant when it's a certain softness between 4 and about 16 inches. Just like how we snap asparagus, there's a certain point where it's woody and soft. The geese know where that is in monomen. A lot of nations use monomen. Muskrats, turtles, our creation story. It was good to hear about those stories and how they guide our elders and are used to guide our youth. But I'll skip the storytelling. But ducks, fish, deer, beaver, things that affect it, fungus, blight, brown spot, other bugs can also damage it, especially during these times, which I call climate changed. It's not a future event, it's happening now. Next. This is my beautiful dog, Namush. Her first day home was January 2nd. I just got my COVID shot. It's been a really tough year, and Namush is a healer. She's helped me. All of our children want to kayak and canoe with Namush. And everybody knows that she's helped our monomen. She's guarded 37 miles. Not all of it, but a good part of it from geese this year. And that was only because I spent last year, me and my partner, chasing geese during COVID-19 when nobody else was around. We worked like dogs. I decided to get one after a really good dream. Next. Oh, she's born November 2nd. Again, let's see the videos. Yep.
There they walk.
Can you back it up about 10 seconds? That was good.
There they walk. Now that they're out and the mush is ready, we're gonna put them on the Niska! Niska!
Okay, we can go to the next one. This is important right here. I'm Crane Clan, and our tribal properties are, a GJAC. I had to train my dog not to chase cranes and only go after geese. Otherwise, I couldn't do anything. Next. Oh, this one here, before you start it. I trained her in Potawatomi, but then I sent her to 2 weeks of boarding training and I had to talk English to her. So some of these might go back and forth, but she's bilingual. So here she's waiting for my command, like in the last video. And this is after this is like one of our latest videos. We stopped chasing geese because the goslings are out. And Monoma started flowering a couple days ago, 2 weeks earlier than I ever remember. Go. all geese gone. We don't leave any geese on the field at all, period. Any body of water, we cross it. She's trained to circle smaller lakes. And then we have different strategies and we use kayaks. So here you can see within a month after I got her, or less than that, probably the first day, I'm training her on our kayaks that we use. These kayaks are outfitted with high-speed cameras, underwater cameras, sonar, side scans, sediment scans, in some of the Monoman waters. The top right, this is sacred Potawatomi knowledge. But we know how to put seeds to sleep. So we put half the seeds in the water in the fall time. The other half we put in the water. And we have 4 facilities for Gun Lake, and I think Noto Sepi has 2. But those seeds, we wake them up in the springtime. I can't show you those pictures, but and people who buy rice and dump it, you have to have a story. The person has to see the rice that they put in that we put down there, and we mark those bags with copper tags. You have to have a story because people buy rice, they don't know where it's from, and I call it the sacred 250 pickup truck, where they just dump 10,000 pounds of rice. Some of the northern Michigan tribes do this. Why would you want 10,000 pounds of rice all over your area? It's like monocropping in my mind. And that bottom right picture is just a beautiful piece of ice. When we started working on the rivers in Namushanai, we were out there when the ice was there. I got to read my stuff here. Today, or Monday, a 300-year-old Monoman bed completely disappeared from climate change. There was a historic drought this year, not historic, but a drought. Half the water in the river disappeared. This limited the aquatic food supply. Geese ate it. Now, I wasn't protecting this body because it was extant. It had geese and Monoman growing for hundreds of years. Basically, the geese got it, ate it. So the original beds in the Kalamazoo River are gone from what I've seen. I'm going to survey the last bit tomorrow. But the beds that we restored downriver in the Enbridge oil spill zone are doing great. And the mush has been guarding that rice. This is very strange. I've never seen a rice bed disappear. This happened on Monday. The rain happened on Sunday. And the rice that we restored, Gun Lake people, citizens, youth, culture, environmental department, language, my children, my cousins, my nieces, grandmas, great aunties, Gun Lake people, along with 2 citizen band individuals, Elin and Gavin, who have been with us and they just work hard. And we have some allies that are non-native and with the environmental department at the tribe also. The Monoman beds that the mush has been guarding, some of them have been 2 years flowering. Some of them have been 6 years flowering. We've got about 40 sites in the Kalamazoo River that are expanding. Next. This is our training. Namush doesn't work alone. She works good when you have your own defenses. So we use decoys, very inexpensive swan decoys. 2 male swans are territorial, or 2 swans are territorial, and other geese won't come in. You put 1 swan out there, it'll attract another swan in possibly. There's the Mushanai. I wear orange so I don't get shot. I'm 6'7". Every time there's a Bigfoot report, I have to have an alibi. I'm using sound decoys, predator sound decoys, motion sound decoys. We use fencing, we use strings, and we have Namush, which enhances everything. Next. So, for some strange reason, Namush knew that was her kayak in the bottom left. Got delivered. I ordered it like the day I got her or the day after maybe. So we needed a platform. We worked from the shore, but I had to get a way to take Namush to the geese down the river. That's our platform. So we're training. She's used to kayaks, and all the kayaks she trained on are very thin. They're tippy. That's my raised garden bed in the upper right-hand corner. I store my kayaks on my raised garden beds, another Potawatomi tradition. But there you see Namush on the back of her kayak. I took all the strings. First thing I do when I get a new boat, I start rigging it the way I need it. On the bottom right-hand corner is Nabish Elliott, Treaty Area 27, Perry, up in Georgian Bay. 19 years old, turned 19 3 weeks ago. He's a commercial drone pilot. He trained on Matthew Bonasiewicz's historic rice bed. We have orthomosaic mapping of that bed that was full for about 3 miles of Monoman. The biggest bed in southern Michigan. Nobody knows about it. Probably, well, some people know about it, I should say. And that's another 19-year-old. Her name is Tanya from India. She's also a drone pilot. And the bottom young kid is a 6-year-old who is the drone instructor's son, who's giving tech advice to these two 19-year-olds. These three right here outfly, outdrone, outdo any tribal environmental department drone people that I know of. And I got a whole PowerPoint about that. Okay, and then let's go to the next one. I just got basic, anyways. Namush, here she is, bottom left, she's pointing out fish. Here she is at the Kalamazoo River, right next to Matthew Bonasiewicz's village when he signed the 1795 treaty with George Washington. And then as a result of the 1821 treaty, this year's 200th anniversary, Matthew Bonasiewicz moved from the headwaters of the Kalamazoo, right there where my pup is, down to Kalamazoo, Portage Creek. Right there was a Potawatomi village, Indian mound, and the first herbarium sample of wild rice, 1838. Henry Bull collected it as part of Douglas Holton's geological expedition when Michigan first became a state. From there, I've looked at Potawatomi mounds, Indian mounds, Potawatomi villages, and wild rice, all the way from Milwaukee to Green Bay, all the way down to Illinois, all the way to Cahokia, all the way up to Des Plaines, all the way up to Kankakee, to northern Indiana, and into Michigan. Indian mounds, Potawatomi villages, and wild rice. And archaeologists, well, I know this already from stories, but Potawatomi put their people on top of those mounds, some of them. We were the last people on them. And I've heard stories where we knew the Hopewell when he first came here. They helped us learn Monoman and all the good things around us when Nanabuju first came in here on his migration journey. The next one is this year's flowering wild rice at Gun Lake. Right there where our summer camp for our youth is, we have 3 kinds of wild rice growing there. In English, or Latin or whatever, we have Aquatica, Zizania palustris, and we have Zizinius palustris subspecies interior. On the right is my grandson, who's Potawatomi, Jemez Pueblo, and Menominee. We have the rice bed that's second year now. Yebashan Oldshield and her daughter planted it. The women are the best ricers and they get the best seeds for growing. That's probably 120 feet long, 12 feet wide. And last year, I think there was about 5,000 flowers in there. And I want to show you flowers next. I'm going to go through this quickly so we have time. The Kalamazoo River Monoman. On the left-hand side, we use a lacrosse stick, a Anishinaabe tool. We reach down, pick up Monoman, we put them in buckets and we move them over dams, down rivers, up rivers where the seeds are no longer. There's my dog on the upper right-hand corner at Gun Lake or GJAC. Interiors to her left, Palustris northern's to her right, and right behind her head is Aquatica, all 3 kinds of Monoman. And I also have my own personal Texas Zizania, wild rice from Texas, where Potawatomi camped. All the scientists in Michigan talk about, oh, Texas, nothing. Potawatomi camped on Texas Monoman. I've been going down there for ceremony. Next. We just overcame climate change disaster. An existing rice bed disappeared. I'm going out there with 2 more Potawatomis. We're bringing rice seeds that were downriver that we've restored, bringing them back to Kalamazoo, the original bed. It's bizarre. We're using a restored bed to restore an existing bed for hundreds of years that is completely gone as of Monday. Next. Okay, I'm going to try and do a couple of things here if I can. There's a couple of pictures I wanted to share, and I'm not sure if I can do that, but I'm going to try. This first one, can you see that, everybody?
You need to click the share screen button and then pick like the window, or you'll see a list of things that you have open that you can pick, and then it will share.
Okay, so can I thank you for showing me your, now I can hit your screen, and then it came, okay, now I got it. At the bottom, hit share screen.
Yes.
Okay, then I'm gonna, oh, wow, this is easy.
Yeah, there you go.
It's coming up?
It came up, but I don't think it's exactly what you wanted to share. I don't know.
So it's a female, it's just one single stalk with a flower on it.
You might want to try again. Might want to hit stop share. There's a red button.
Okay, a red button on your screen.
Oh, there it is. Now we can see it.
Okay, see right there?
I think you need to scroll down a little on the picture. Yeah, there you go. That's perfect.
Okay, this is a female flower. Okay, Monoman has 2 flowers, male and a female. Does anybody, what does that remind you of, those flowers? Eagle fluffs. That's the female flower. This is why our women wear eagle fluffs into the arena. Let me see if I can just hit a button here. Okay, what does that look like? That's an eagle staff. Can anybody see this, or can you hear me?
Yes, we can see and hear you.
Thank you. These are eagle staffs. When you go to a powwow, you're seeing a fertility dance. Now, I knew about this before powwow culture came to Michigan from stories, and I'm going to tell you who they are. Ron Yaub, Joe Ellen Weesaw, now Pokagon, Martin Weesaw, older than my dad. Frank Edwigizek knows of these things, knows of what I do. So those are some of many, many elders. I was always the last kid in the room listening to our elders. When somebody wrote a book about our elders 34 or 50 years ago now, half of them didn't want to talk to the lady with writing the book. I wouldn't talk to those elders and ask them why. And they said, if they write a book, they'll put us on the shelf and our kids will never have to listen to us. Those stories belong in our hearts. And I just listen to those stories, that's all I've ever done. Now I'm making my kids, they've forgiven me now, but they've been rising. My only job was to give them this life, and now we're sharing it with our people. Next, I got to do that, I guess. This is another male flower. You see it? It's different than the first one, different species. So what I'm doing is I'm harvesting wild rice seeds from Indiana, Illinois, Wisconsin, historic Potawatomi beds where there's Indian mounds, Indian villages, and wild rice. Maybe not always exactly there because of industry and agriculture and development. I'm able to find it somehow. I'm pretty good at this, I guess. But right there, you see those male flowers, they also look like wild rice seeds. And that's the danger for people that don't know tradition. They'll start knocking that plant thinking that's wild rice, and that's hard on it. But the color difference, I want you to notice that with the male flower. I've seen them all different colors. Those are just 2, maybe on the extremes, not even, I've seen white flowers. When you go to the powwow, what do they say when they bring out the eagle staffs? Post your colors. Those are the colors. Those eagle staffs, the male flower and the monomen comes out first. Only after they've come out and the pollen is ready do the females come out. When those female flowers catch pollen, they disappear and the wild rice seed starts. Now I'm gonna let go. Thank you very much. Chimagwech.
Miigwech, Lee, that was excellent. And if you want to stop sharing your screen, and I would invite the other panelists to unmute their videos, and I'll just like I'll leave with one question here that you could briefly answer, and then Jessica Koski is going to talk about next week, the session. But my question is, what are your hopes for the future with this work? Where do you see it going, and how do you see it impacting your communities as well as the broader non-native communities? And anyone can start.
I'll go first. So I've been working a lot with our youth since I started doing classes, and my hope that is if I can get at least one of those kids in those classes interested in doing medicines and learning the language and the speeches, then I feel like I've done my class or my job. You know, I just want one kid in every class to be interested, and then hopefully one day we can have at least one person in every family who does medicines for their whole family. And that's one of my main missions.
Thank you, Miigwech.
I'll go next. So for me, I think the main thing that I want to get out of this work is to remind people that, you know, our native plants are beautiful. You know, we can look at them, and I always say, you know, when did we forget that these were beautiful? Because we go to nurseries, you know, we plant geraniums, you know, hydrangeas, all of those different things that are not necessarily, you know, plants that support the ecosystem. So that's where I would like to see this go, and we get back into, you know, having those plants and that connection to those plants again as we, you know, move forward in this work. But I think one of the other things that I want to bring up is one of the elders in the community told me, you know, kanut is the word for rib in Ojibwe. And, you know, when we were making our canoes and we were making our travel vessels, we used ribs in them. And the ribs were made out of birch and ash. And one of the things that she said is our ribs support us to stand tall. And when we were using those trees and making our vessels to help us move on top of the water, those trees supported us. All of those plants that we use supported us, and we owe it to them to support them because they are the ribs of our people. And that's how she, you know, put it to us, is that we have to make sure that we always support the plants that supported us over time.
Miigwech, that's beautiful. Thank you. And Lee.
Yes. Same question? Boy, just what I've heard. Every time I get a kid, you know, when the flowers are out now, that's when I go tell that Nana Buju story, because that's when he saw that flower. And then he took that seed to his Noko up in Anokamis, grandmother up in the Atlantic. That's our message, to take that seed and move it. And then when his Nokomis, she didn't throw it in the ocean or the bottom of a big lake. She had to describe that to his Noko, and she planted it. The next year he went down, he came back, and the flower had grown, and he saw that seed, and he said, wow, that's beautiful. And she goes, yeah, just like you said. Then a duck came by, grabbed the seed, dropped it in a soup pot, and that's how they found out monomen was food that grew in the water. So telling them the story, and I love the storytelling in all these presentations. My stories take an hour just to say hi to my kids, okay? So, but basically, you have to learn how to read a story and distill the information generationally. And how I teach my kids is I make up stories about real events, bear walkers and skinwalkers and little people and people that are disappearing. But it's about an event that they're familiar with, right? So I'm coding it right now, and they can talk to other people, bear walkers. So, there's certain things that I avoid. Like my dad talked about bear walkers at the Mount Pleasant Indian School. Okay. And he talked about bear walkers, skinwalkers in Canada, I guess. I don't know. Everybody's got their own bear walker fight, I got mine. But yeah, the storytelling is the most important, and when to tell the story. And I don't want to tell my stories in a classroom anymore. I don't do that. And this is the first Zoom I've done over COVID regarding this topic, because I wanted to share that Monoman belongs with seed savers, sacred knowledge. It is our most sacred seed. It does not belong with environment or science people. It's really hurt me. And the poem I'm going to share after this is from my experiences at the University of Michigan, the Botanical Gardens, and as Jessica so diligently listened to me, Noah, which when somebody said that nobody in Michigan writes because of COVID and no tribe approved money, wrong. My son's Daniel tribe approved money in rice. Gun Lake community went out and rice, and we restored, and we worked like dogs to keep those geese off. And who knew that our homeland rice bed would disappear? Almost proving everything, like all the stories I heard, all I did was paddle my whole life and look at our stories. And it's kind of scary right now to see a rice bed disappear, okay? I got some elders and some people coming out with me to look at it because I don't really understand this other than climate has changed, past tense. Chimugach.
Chimigwichli, Sherilyn, Satyakva. This has been a wonderful presentation, wonderful thoughts and stories, and we hope that people continue to engage with every one of the speakers here. I think the emails are there. And now I'll turn it over to Jessica to just kind of take us out here. Miigwech for sharing all your heart and minds.
Yes, Miigwech, thank you to our speakers, Satyokwa, Sherilyn, and Lee. It was so interesting to hear a lot of common themes for native plant restoration weaved throughout each of your talks. From resiliency, including in the face of contaminated traditional gathering areas and climate change. You all spoke about the importance of sharing and educating, the role of language revitalization, how native plant restoration is inseparable to cultural restoration, and also for personal and community well-being and healing, the importance of restoring connections to place, as well as intergenerational connections and the importance of engaging youth and our elders in this work. So thank you. And thank you also to Mike and Jessica Dolan for the Q&A facilitation. It was short, but we'll share the contact information if folks have any more questions following today's talk. Also, thank you to the University of Minnesota Department of American Indian Studies and Christina for the Zoom support. So the next session will be our final session of the series next week, Wednesday on June 30th. And it will focus on TEK and monitoring initiatives and climate adaptation in the Great Lakes region. And please note that this final session will run longer than the first 5 sessions. We're planning to go for 2 hours. Next week, we will hear from speakers from the Saugeen Ojibwe First Nation, Pays Platte First Nation, College of Menominee Nation, and the Great Lakes Indian Fish and Wildlife Commission, as well as Satyokwa again, who's been a significant contributor throughout the series. So she will share some closing address words to help conclude the series in a good way. So at this time, we will conclude today's 5th session of the series. And Miigwech, thank you for attending, and we hope to see you all next week.